For those who fight their own shadowed battles, may these pages bring you a touch of joy and light, and perhaps your own obsessed guardian. Content warning. The world in which As Above, So Below takes place is a grim and dangerous place. It is filled with dark entities, manipulative gods, and heavy internal monologue. There is murder, elements of assault and torture and manipulation. As such, some scenes may be triggering to certain readers. Please proceed with caution. Animal death. Graphic scenes involving gore. Open-door sexual content. References to past sexual abuse. Ritualistic sacrifices. Strong and vulgar language. Suicide ideation. Toxic parental relationships. Verbal, physical, and emotional abuse. Not the male lead. Prologue. Life for a demon is a dream. An impossible thing no demon in their right mind would ever want. Yet here I stand, dreaming as I stare at the night sky. It's undoubtedly foolish, and I'm sure to be reprimanded for wasting time in the Vale, especially by Valen. I can't help myself. I've grown tired of my existence, of my servitude, of reaping. With a defeated sigh, I drag my gaze from the dark, glittering expanse overhead to the rolling grassy hills in the southern tier of Menora. Thronged with screaming and bloodied mortals, the scene is a strange contrast to the tranquility of the universe. Gods only knows what they're fighting about now. It's probably the result of some proclamation, marriage, or source of power or gold. Foolish things for foolish mortals to bicker and fight and kill one another over. The demonic blood in my veins sings in response to the carnage, small darts of excitement shooting up my spine. With pursed lips, I stifle the budding thrill and begin my hunt. The god of death has sent me to collect one damned soul. Death for the living is inescapable. Another mortal, one of millions over the eons, beguiled into signing a contract with my father, Netharis. Today's list of names ends with one Thalian Witherhorn. Judging by the family name, I'm hunting a fae. A pull in my chest sets my feet forward. South. Into the fray, fighting and chaos. These soldiers are too busy to notice the path of dying grass cutting its way through them. They'll ignore all the signs a vessel of death stalks them from the Vale. The hair standing on the backs of their necks, the growing knot in their stomachs, the feeling of being watched. All of that ignored. They're too busy killing one another to pay any attention to me. Not that they can see me. While I walk among them, the Vale separates us. I stand in a whole different realm, one that clings to the living world like a thin gossamer. It's as if the Vale wants nothing more than to adorn the living, or smother them. I am one of the many horrors found on the other side of life. It's here I'll await Thalian's death and collect his soul. Mortals signing damning contracts with my father is nothing new. It's happened since the dawn of time. One would think mortals would eventually learn whatever Netharis promises isn't worth the payment. Like Thalian, I myself am contracted to the god of death. Though, I suppose, serving him, collecting and ferrying these souls for eternity is marginally better than spending the afterlife damned to whatever torture Netharis deems fit. Marginally. My toe catches on the limb of a corpse and I stumble, my wings splaying wide to prevent a fall. Curling my lip in annoyance, I regain balance, tucking my wings behind me as I press forward. The hunting instinct screams in my chest, needing to be followed. Metal meeting metal catches my attention. A morning star in the hands of a fae draws back, preparing for another strike against the helm of a human man. With lightning-fast speed, the weapon descends, and the man, still reeling from the first blow, crumples onto the dirt. For good measure, the Fae follows up with 2 more strikes, crushing the man's helmet and his skull. Breezing past him, a brilliant flash of white light nearly blinds me, and I recoil, raising a hand to shield my vision. A light wielder hides somewhere among these mortals. My own innate responds, the near-sentient magic curious, and thick dark fog ebbs underfoot. It's as if my shadows recognize their opposite, and the thought of feeding on a light wielder is too tempting to remain hidden. Attempting to peer through the violent crowd, there are too many faces to determine which mortal my shadow should strangle.
Press forward!
To the left, a Fae male seated atop an armored buckskin stallion points in my direction. The hunting instinct draws taut and vibrates as a soft smile pulls at the corners of my lips. He is the one I hunt. Set into motion once again, I begin my approach. A bloodied sword raised in his right hand, silver braids stream from under his helm as he charges his mount forward. He continues to shout commands to those around him, other Fae on foot, all dressed in gleaming platinum plate armor. Between he and I lie 24 soldiers, less in the few steps I take as Thalion cuts them down with graceful ease. Despite being battered and bloodied, or perhaps because of it, the Fae I hunt makes for a beautiful sight. High cheekbones, piercing violet eyes, broad shoulders. Like all Fae I've had to collect over the centuries, he is beautiful, powerful, and utterly stupid for signing a contract with the god of death. The soldiers around him rush forward, clashing with those between us, and I linger, less than 20 yards away, studying him. Why would Netharis want the soul of this Fae? And what did Netharis offer Thalion to earn it? Several soldiers break through the lines, swarming Thalion. He's quick to bring down his sword, ending 2 lives in less than a second. Rearing back with a foot, Thalion kicks a third in the face, knocking his helmet to the ground, revealing pointed ears. Not human. Fae. These Fae are fighting other Fae? Glancing around with a narrow-eyed stare, it becomes clear this battle isn't between humans and Fae as I'd assumed. The soldiers fighting beside Thalion are a mix of humans and Fae, while all their opponents are Fae. I'm intrigued. A garrison of Fae fighting alongside humans is noteworthy, considering the history between the 2 species. Fae dominate the living realm, seeking to rule, possess, or exterminate other species who threaten their reign. Humans included. Fae are responsible for the extinction of several species, subspecies of their own kind no less. Winged Fae, forest Fae, and pixies to name a few. Fae are the demons of the living realm, truly. Screams slice through the air, returning my focus to the scene before me as Thalion buries the point of his blade in the throat of yet another opponent. 2 others charge at him, and in an instant, a stream of crimson flame blooms through the night, spiraling outward from Thalion's fingertips. Engulfed in hellfire, the Fae's cries are short-lived as they collapse upon the grass. In seconds, their flesh is rendered ash, and their armor a molten conglomeration of metal. There it is. That's what Netharis offered. Hellfire can overpower nearly any innate, and it's only bestowed to demons. That is, only full-blooded demons are capable of inheriting it. Thalion traded his soul in order to use a demonic innate magic. It's not an offer I'd ever consider, even if I were a mortal. A woman howls orders nearby, her voice carrying over the chaos and drawing my eyes to a flash of crimson hair, but it's lost before I can see their face. Thalion turns his beast north, and its eyes lock with mine. The creature doesn't see me, but it does sense me. Curiosity getting the better of me, I slip forward, between and around the fighting fae, and it chuffs. I am not here for you, beast. I offer a small smile as its eyes stare through me, but your rider owes a debt. No horse has let me touch it. In fact, most animals of the living realm possess the uncanny ability to sense me, and it sets them on edge. My fingers loom inches away, the distance growing slowly shorter as its large dark eyes pierce through me. Huffing, it whinnies and rears, throwing its legs high into the air, and on instinct I recoil, stepping backward. Too many things happen at once. My wing brushes against a fae and he crumples to the ground. As if it were an open invitation, my shadows race across the grass and snake around the feet of the others around me, quivering for my permission to feed. Thalion's opponent rushes over the body, shoving his sword into the unprotected belly of the steed. With a sharp cry, the horse falls, both rider and beast plummeting to the ground. Eyes wide, I lose the white-knuckled grip on my innate, and every mortal in a 20-foot radius collapses. Dead. Their deaths cause a near euphoric rush to wash over me, and I shudder against it, forcing myself forward. I cannot have killed Thalion. I cannot have interfered with whatever fate Nextos has woven for the Fae. Natharis is going to lose his mind if I have. Panic coursing through me, I sweep left, and Thalion lies upon the ground, unmoving. Clamping down on my jaw and my innate, the darkness recedes, hiding itself away. Shouts rise, and Thalion, pinned beneath the horse and against a large boulder, groans. He lives, and thank the gods for it. My panic dissipates. Protect the sovereign king! My brows raise. Not simply some Fae lord, but a sovereign king of a Fae country. The reasons behind Natharis seeking his soul become clear.
Send for the healer!
Send for the guardian! The orders ripple through the field, echoed by various voices as soldiers shift, fighting to gain ground, to get closer to their king. In my chest, the hunting instinct grows feverish. It won't be much longer before I can collect his soul. The first of the soldiers reaches Thalion, leaping over the dying horse to remove Thalion's helm. Bright crimson blood pours down the side of his face, and he begins to cough. Of the two creatures dying, I've more sympathy for the steed. Kneeling beside the creature, it stares up at me with wide dark eyes, nostrils flared with labored breathing. Standing on the precipice of death, it sees me clearly now. Deep red blood leaks from the gash in its ribs, showing no evidence of slowing soon. I wasn't here for you, I whisper, reaching for its nose once again. But I will give you painless release. With my touch, it looses a long breath, its eyes growing unfocused as its chest deflates. More soldiers begin to emerge from the fighting, creating a protective ring around Thalion, trapping me inside with them. If only they knew the depth of their mistake.
You should leave.
Thalion's voice rings out, weak compared to the orders he'd shouted moments ago. Lifting my gaze from the horse, I'd expected to see him speaking to the soldier beside him. Instead, vibrant violet eyes meet mine.
Your Majesty.
The soldier believes his king is talking to him.
I cannot. Go!
He barks the word, the force of it causing yet another coughing fit. His eyes don't leave mine as I stand. Hesitating, the soldier pulls himself to a stand and reluctantly backs away.
Not yet, Deathbringer,
He says, his voice so low I barely hear him. Unable to ignore the call of the hunting instinct, I leap over the horse, wings extending, and land, kneeling beside him. A small, knowing smile curls my lips. You signed a contract. My eyes narrow. There is no escaping the god of death.
I think you'll find there is.
He laughs, letting his head loll back against the stone. A strange sensation unfurls itself in my chest, a tugging, similar to the hunting instinct, but it doesn't lead me to Thalion. Instead, it beckons me to the right. Head swiveling, Thalion smiles.
Brother!
He wheezes, a sound that would have been lost to the cacophony around us had I not been so close. His chest heaves and falls, and does not rise again. The light in his violet eyes fades, his stare growing blank. Wasting no time, I plunge a hand into the center of his chest, curling my fingers around his soul. With a firm pull, my hand breaks free, fingers wrapped around a palm-sized ball of red light. Its color proof the soul has been promised to my father. A sanity-shattering scream tears through the air, the sound laden with loss and mourning. It appears Thalion's mate is somewhere in this fight, and their bond now lies broken. The radiant red glow of the soul illuminates the area around me, washing over Thalion's pallid face. A flash of a silver blade streaks toward my throat and freezes centimeters from its mark. Confused, I freeze, gripping the soul and my innate tight.
Return him.
A male demands, pressing the blade to my throat. The voice resonates in my chest with a familiarity I don't understand. It's as if I've heard it thousands of times. Too stunned to move, struggling to make sense of the feeling, of the situation, I remain still. The blade rises, forcing my chin up. Through the corner of my eye, I trace the blade to its wielder, and a pair of golden eyes stare down at me. "Do not make this mistake, mortal," I manage through clenched teeth. How in the 9 hells is this possible? This Fae is uninjured, not standing close to death. He should not be able to see me, let alone threaten me. He doesn't move. Instead, he studies my face.
Return him, and I'll send you back to Netharis quickly.
Unable to stop myself, I stand, the blade following me, my throat, even as I turn to face him. Brave mortal doesn't realize who he is threatening. I laugh, holding his stare. He stares at me still, and I feel exposed, judged, vilified. Perhaps rightfully so. The odd pull in my chest beckons me to walk forward. It would have me impale myself on his blade. I firmly plant my feet against it, clutching Thalion's soul to my chest. None of this makes sense. The boldness of his eye color steals all of my attention. Deep amber gold, ringed with black, set in a beautiful Fae face. A strong jaw, high cheekbones, dark brows. He isn't simply beautiful. He's a dark, haunting creature. The kind of mortal I would seduce into a contract were Netharis to ever allow it. "Who are you?" I ask, destroying the silence hanging between us. "What are you?"
I finally found you,
he says softly, lowering his sword. He sounds just as incredulous as I feel. Stepping back, suspicion snakes up my spine, and my innate vibrates in response. I may have to kill this Fae. I should kill this Fae. With a swift swing, the Fae buries the end of his sword into the dirt and extends an open hand. An invitation? From a mortal?
You belong here.
He says, an unexpected note of pleading in his tone.
With me.
The pulling sensation sears through my chest, and I take another step backward, fighting the notion. Glancing around, we're surrounded by chaos, the small circle created by the soldiers keeping the area clear. It's as if he stepped into the veil, Into this realm. How is such a thing possible? I've taken too long. Natharis is going to start asking questions, and I don't know how to explain this mortal. I belong to the Hells, I finally reply, shaking my head. They're words I've never believed, words Natharis won't let me forget. Behind me, my shadows rise, swirling violently, opening a door to the Hells. The stench of sulfur and smoke reaches my nose within seconds, and I step backward through the portal, holding the Fae's stare.
I will find you.
He lowers his hand, and his words sink into my skin. Is this one of those fabled Fae promises? Because it sounds more like a threat. My shadows slam the door shut between us before vanishing like morning fog in the rising sun. I'm left standing alone in the Hells with the soul of Thallium Witherhorn, unsure of everything I've ever known. Chapter 1. 300 years later, I'm still dreaming of that night, of that encounter, of his eyes, of his words. Worrying at my lip with my teeth, the jagged, barren terrain of the Hells stretches for miles before me. Like always, the view is uninteresting, but I stare anyway. Losing myself to thoughts, the unchanged world before me goes out of focus. The Hells will forever be as they currently stand. Nothing changes, nothing evolves, nothing grows. Not here. It all will stay exactly the same, just as Natharis wants. I've stood on this balcony countless times, especially since that night on the battlefield. I stopped attending court, escaped Casil, abandoned Druka, and withdrew. To this library, wanting to learn, needing to figure out what kind of anomaly that Fae is. Meeting him set off a chain of events that has left me desperate to escape the Hells, but lost as to how. I haven't seen him since then, and at least now the dream isn't nightly. It comes and goes every few months, but it's just enough to remind me if Natharis won't grant me the ability to leave, then finding a means to end my existence is the next closest thing. I've nitpicked over every detail, every uttered word, every possible meaning, and have yet to find an answer that makes sense. A mortal capable of seeing, or perhaps even standing within the veil, shouldn't be possible. Despite scouring this library, I've yet to understand how he possesses that ability. He didn't strike me as a necromancer. Necromancy is forbidden across Eldoterra. While it's gotten easier to let the Fae fade into the back of my mind, the mornings following the dream leave me ruined. Irritable, unable to focus, and mourning a life I'll never have. The dream is nothing more than a reminder of my place in the Hells, and a sore reminder at that. I exist to serve my father, the god of death. And that Fae, it's a matter of time before his name shows up on a reaping list, I'm sure of it. I'll never see it. His name will never make any of my reaping lists. Natharis stopped giving me high-profile souls as a result of that night. Punishment for losing control of my shadows and killing 22 soldiers. They were bound to die anyway. But Natharis doesn't like to draw the attention of the goddess of fate. I lied about the Fae that night when Natharis questioned me. I don't know why. In the end, it didn't matter. I shared what happened with Valen, my twin, believing our bond as siblings was stronger than his allegiance to the Hells. I was wrong. Retreating from the balcony in search of better distraction, I stride into the library. In here, I can lose myself in thousands of books, tomes, scrolls, written histories, the comfort of silence, and the silver glow of mage lights. Here, I don't have to think about my existence and how much I want it to end. In here, I'm not simply a tool Natharis uses to tip the scales of judgment in his favor. This library is my one last respite. And gods know how much longer I'll have access to it. Netharis' swift and unforgiving temper has stripped me of nearly all joys I've managed to uncover in the hells. Sweeping past the unkempt rows of shelves stacked with books, scrolls, obsidian boxes, and soul-filled crystals, I make for the center of the room. The light shed by the souls follows my movement, swinging from one side of their crystalline prisons to the other. Some bounce excitedly as if trying to draw my attention. I ignore them. We want the same thing, these souls and I. We're all trapped here. I could free them, smash their crystals, set them loose within the hells. And in no time they would be found by one of the millions of prowling demons. Freeing them would be damning. There are worse things in the hells than being trapped in this library with me. They may not believe it, but they're safer here. The soul crystals are everywhere, overburdening shelves, stacked in corners, piled on books. Some so ancient their red glow has faded, obscured by a thick layer of sulfuric dust. The light they cast creates pockets of red between the shelves, giving the aisle a pulsing, ominous hue. I am not sorry to disappoint, I mutter to myself, to the crystals as I round a corner. I'm no savior. No, I'm far from it. Each crystal was once a living, breathing entity. They lived a life, walked in the living realm. Perhaps they had families or lovers, interests and preferences. Human or fae, possibly some demon souls linger here as well. With their voices lost upon death, they now spend eternity here, subjected to Netharis' neglect. What I would give to be forgotten by him. I'm forced to slip around a stack of books I'd left in the middle of the path, careful not to topple the curated pile I created. Random stacks and piles serve as a reminder. I need to return the titles to their shelf. Not today. Tucking my wings against me, I weave around yet another waist-high stack. Before long, the familiar wooden table in the center of the library comes into view. It's an intricately carved thing. Dark ebony wood, thick legs carved to resemble the skulls of various creatures from the living realm. Humans, fae, werewolves, vampires, all horrors in their own ways. It's a table suited to seat 14, lined with matching chairs that have collected centuries of dust, save for the last few at the end. It's meant for Netharis and his 13 children. His 13 vessels of death. Deathbringers. We've never sat here together. Not once. No one visits this library aside from me. Valen and Ollora will seek me out here, knowing it's one of 2 places in the tower I have the clearance to visit. I've turned it into my little sanctuary in the hells, if such a thing could exist. The table is covered with dozens of books, some stacked quite hastily, others left strewn open to whatever page I read last. It's an unsightly mess for sure. Dragging my eyes upward from the disarray, the black metal chandelier hanging overhead comes to life with light as I bend and crook my fingers. A vast yet soft circle of silver light fills the room, washing over the table to chase the shadows away, exposing the titles and text. With a sigh, I seat myself beside the head of the table and draw a stack of 3 books closer. Many of the library's works are historical accounts of the hells, bestiaries on various demon types. Every once in a while, I've stumbled upon a roughly translated piece from the living realm. Finding them is like a breath of fresh air after emerging from a dark cavern. Surprisingly, I've come across journals penned by Netharis himself. I don't know what I expected when I decided to read them. They're nothing more than retellings of his victories, securing noteworthy contracts or speculation on mortal politics. Nothing worth reading. Nothing to help me find answers about the fae, about leaving the hells, or about ending myself. In a moment of petty spite, I burned them. He never noticed. Pulling the first book from the stack, my eyes gloss over the title, The History of the Harpy. Pushing it aside, I move on to the next. The second book resonates under my touch, and I freeze, brows furrowing. It's a strange, crawling sensation, creeping along my fingertips and rising up my wrist. Malbolge runes dance over the leather surface, writhing toward the center, and arrange themselves. Fated celestials. I pull my fingers away and shudder as the sensation ceases. What kind of defense mechanism does this book possess? And why is it here? I don't recall retrieving this book, and I absolutely would have remembered feeling that. Could Ollora have found it and left it? Near the bottom of the cover, a name. Chrysop. It's not a name I recognize, and I'm going to assume human as it sounds neither fae nor demon. Laying my palm flat against the cover, the creeping sensation shoots up my arm, faster than it had before, and I gasp, snatching my hand away. No pain, just a strange pulling. Raising the left sleeve of my black robes, I inspect my arm. Turning it over, searching for markings or changes in my flesh. Nothing. All right. Interesting.
You have that look about you, Vess.
Valen's voice is teasing. Startled, my eyes dart across the room. Valen approaches, striding into the center of the room at the far end of the table. His smile carries the mischievous glint I know all too well. He's bored, and now he's come to entertain himself by annoying me. They? My greeting trails off as I cross a leg over my knee. You find me in a state of disarray. I gesture to the books strewn across the table. He runs his thumb along the back of each chair as he continues his approach. The grating sound of his talon cutting into the wood sets my face into a scowl. Head swiveling, his cerulean blue eyes sweep over the room.
I see this.
He nods.
I hope for your benefit today isn't the day Natharis decides to seek you out here.
My laughter is bitter. I've given Natharis no reason to visit me, and he hasn't visited this library since... I stop myself, staring at the pile of books blankly for a moment before I force myself to meet my brother's stare. He doesn't visit the library. You know this. I finish firmly. Returning the book to the stack, I pick up the first book I'd moved, The History of the Harpy, and placed it over Fated Celestials. An attempt to hide the cursed book from his view. I don't know how it ended up in the library, but something tells me it shouldn't be here. And I'm not about to be blamed for it. Valen has already proven his worth as the heir of the Hells. His loyalties lie with Natharis. He made that clear when he told Natharis about the golden-eyed fae. With a sweeping push, the pile of books slides left, bumping against a taller stack, hiding the spine with dancing runes. Reaching, I pull a different stack closer and straighten it, turning the spines toward me as I lift the top book with the intent to read. The Royal Fae Families of Eldoterra. It takes more willpower than I'd care to admit to keep from rolling my eyes. Chance would have it that I come across this. This is absolutely a Ollora find. Her interest in mortal culture and tradition is near obsessive. Reluctantly, I open the book with a sigh. Valen stops across from me, staring in my direction. A stare I wholly ignore.
Nose first in books, like always.
He comments with a grin, dragging the chair away from the table. Perhaps you should try sticking your nose in one once in a while, I counter, glancing over the table of contents. 8 Fae countries, 8 royal families, each with their own chapters. How droll a subject.
Sounds awful.
Valen scoffs, his face pinching with evident distaste as he throws himself into his seat, nearly knocking it backward.
I'll leave the reading to you, since you seem to enjoy it so much.
Lifting my gaze from the page, I stare at him in silence. His blue eyes meet mine, and he studies my face, his smile slowly fading.
You dreamt about him again, didn't you?
He asks, pitching his hands behind his head as he leans back in the seat. I don't know how he knows it, how he can tell, and I hate that he's right. I have no idea what you're talking about. Lie and deflect, a tried and true tactic of all demons. I'm simply trying to read in peace. He makes a humph sound, arching a dark brow.
Simply trying to read, or simply trying to distract yourself from your thoughts after rushing through your reaping list this morning?
Gods damn him. Clinging to my deteriorating visage of being unbothered, I return my eyes to the page. Whether I rushed through the list or not matters little, I say, heaving a tired sigh. Netharis has his souls. Valen laughs, nodding.
True, but I always finish my list before you, and yet today you've finished before me, which means you didn't linger in the veil.
I'm going to pluck his eyes from his skull for being more observant than he has any right to be. Today, I didn't resist the pull of the hunting instinct as I usually do to sightsee. I visited 20 locations across Eldoterra, 6 of which were first-time visits, small towns tucked away in the wilderness. I paid no attention to any of them, too distracted by my thoughts of him. I reaped efficiently and returned to the Hells. Neither Valen nor Netharis have any right to find fault in my actions. Yet here Valen and I stand, him questioning why I'd worked too well. I'll never win against either of them. My budding irritation gets the better of me. If you find fault with how I reap, I suggest you run to Netharis. His jaw tightens, my words a blatant dig.
You're never going to let that go,
He says, his tone softer than I'd expect. No,
Vess, it was for your own protection.
he says, lowering his arms to cross them over his chest.
You left me little other choice. You spurned Casil because of this fae, involved yourself with a succubus as retaliation, and have locked yourself away for the last 2 centuries.
My laughter is dark, bitter. You would mention Casil. My lip curls in disgust. The fae had nothing to do with escaping him. Leveling a withering glare at my twin, he sighs, pursing his lips. What is it you want, Valen? Not Vay, not brother, his full name.
He asks about you still.
He means Casil. Valen watches me as if I were on the verge of leaping across the table and grabbing him by the throat. And perhaps today I might, especially if he keeps on about the Lord of Wrath. Am I supposed to be flattered? I flip to page 33, a chapter on the Everbreeze family of Eros. I'm determined to feign my interest in the book to emphasize my disinterest in anything Valen has to say.
Flattered? No.
He says.
Concerned? Yes. He's convinced it's a matter of time before you return to him.
Nausea and unease blossom in my stomach, setting my face to a scowl as I attempt to read. I'll never return to Casil. I barely managed to escape him the first time, and it cost me my freedom to move about the Hells. It cost me Druka. But it cost her more. A sudden jerking movement snaps my eyes toward my sibling. He's leaning back in his chair, teetering precariously on its back legs. The thought of him crashing to the floor curls my lips with a wicked grin. Please do fall, Vay. I am in desperate need of distraction from my thoughts. He smirks.
I'm not going to fall.
His arms flail out as he hooks his toes under the lip of the table. You behave like an imp, I say flatly, arching a brow.
He's hosting a gathering this evening.
Again with Casil.
He'd like you to join.
My mounting irritation is going to land me in Netharis' study. The god of death doesn't take kindly to those who assault the air of the hells. Please return my most humble and emphatic no. His eyes race to mine.
I'd like you to join.
He stares at me from that ridiculous splayed position, and for a moment I'm reminded of how things used to be. As much as I want to reconnect with my twin, I don't think I can. Beneath the table, tendrils of shadow creep across the floor, winding toward the legs of his chair. They wrap around the legs, and because I've no interest in stopping them, they yank. Like a heavy stone cast into a pond, Valen plummets backward to the floor. In a swirl of shadows, he's swept up seconds before landing against the polished obsidian and deposited upright beside the chair.
Seriously?
He asks, brows high, voice incredulous. My shadows race back to me, skirting beneath my robes. You're failing to recognize when your company is unwanted, I say, and he gives me a flat glare. Smoothing his hands down the front of his black button-down shirt, he straightens his silver-feathered wings behind him. So strange for a demon to have wings reminiscent of a life-bringer's. Mine are darker than midnight. While they're not the same flesh and bone like the wings of demons, they're at least not bright and shiny like Valen's. At first glance, Valen could pass as fae. Moonlight pale skin, waist-length straight silver hair, broad shoulders, vivid blue eyes, and in possession of what mortals would consider an attractive face. All I see are his demonic tendencies. Valen can be as manipulative as the god of death himself.
I'm giving you the chance to get out of this tower, Vess,
he says, planting his hands on his hips.
Natharis won't care where you go if I'm with you.
He picks up the chair and reseats himself. I've already said no, I retort, scanning the first sentence on the page. Apparently, the Everbreeze royal family is renowned for their wind innate. Honestly, it's not an innate I'd consider impressive.
And if I order it?
I freeze, every muscle coiling in tight. You come here, disturb me, and threaten to pull rank? I spit the words, my voice low. All for what? To watch Casil treat me like property? Do you find his abuse of me entertaining? Has shadowing Natharis truly destroyed your mind? Or is this an attempt to win more of Natharis' favor? Valen grimaces, tearing his eyes away, unable to hold my stare. Some of my brother remains in there after all.
I see your tongue hasn't lost any of its sharpness during your self-imposed isolation.
He counters quietly, irritation seeping into his voice. I scoff a laugh, unbothered by his tone. Are you finished here?
Vess.
He heaves a sigh.
I'm sorry. I'm not Ollora. I'm not going to sit here and watch you wither away because you can't accept who you are, what you are.
Our youngest half-sibling has nothing to do with anything between us, and I'm not sure why Valen would bring her up. A moment passes as I stare at my brother, before I realize it's jealousy. My lips curl into a wicked grin. Jealousy becomes you, Valen.
It is not jealousy,
he retorts, rolling his eyes.
Something is changing in the hells, Vess. Can you not sense it? I can. Natharis' behavior has been more secretive than usual.
What? My eyes narrow. I can't say I've sensed or noticed anything. At the same time, I can't say I cared enough to pay attention. He stands from his seat.
If you were smart, you'd align yourself with Casil for your own benefit.
Immediately, my anger returns. Say his name again in my presence, Valen. I snarl the warning. Casil can rot. His face sets into a scowl.
Your dream fae isn't...
My anger flares. Before he can finish his sentence, I launch the book in my hands across the table, aimed at his head. It flies swift and true, but Valen shields himself with an arm, deflecting the makeshift projectile. It lands on the floor with a loud slap. Jaw agape with shock, Valen stares at me as if I'd assaulted him with a thrown dagger.
I tried.
The words are pure ice.
When you're ready to discuss things in a civilized manner, find me.
In a billowing swirl of shadow, Valen vanishes. Civilized? Rich coming from a demon. No, he's simply mad I refuse to be used as a pawn in whatever power struggle Netharis has influenced this week. Centuries ago, I would have listened to him. I would have gone with him to plot and plan and scheme with the Lord of Wrath. But Valen's no better than any of the Layer Lords or Netharis, always seeking to improve his status within the Hells, despite being the Hell's chosen one. Learning everyone I ever trusted only sought to serve themselves was an eye-opening period. One I refuse to go through again. I'll never fully trust any demon, not even little Ollora. My eyes swing to faded celestials. Books, though. I can trust books. Books will not beat me, lock me in obsidian, or use compulsion magic to force me to listen. Snatching it from the stack, ignoring the unsettling sensation causing my skin to crawl, my favorite seat by the fireplace across the library calls my name. Shadows rush up around me and vanish, leaving me deposited in the seat. With a snap of my fingers, a fire roars to life a few feet away behind the intricate metal screen. The gentle popping and cracking coaxing my anger to subside. Taking a deep breath, I set the book on my lap and turn to the first page. Blank. What? I turn another page. Blank. Another and another. All blank. None of this makes sense. Why would a blank book possess a defense curse? I don't know what I expected to find. At this point, I'll take anything to distract me from my spiraling thoughts. Best case scenario, it'll be information on how to escape the Hells. Give me something. Anything. Dark runes float to the surface of the page as if they're being pulled from the depth of the Hells themselves and begin to arrange themselves. In a matter of seconds, I sit staring wide-eyed at a table of contents. Moonfire, the Moon Goddess's Saga, the title across the top of the page reads. My face pinches with confusion. This is a book about my mother? Netharis had all books on Celesta removed from this library before I was born, and has made it clear questions about her would not be answered. Curiosity and wariness breed in my chest as I read over the page. Only 4 chapters, it seems. Odd, considering the thickness of the book. The contract, the sacred births, the ascension, the harbinger of chaos. Flipping to chapter 1, I begin to read. Chapter 2. Snapping the book shut, I stare at the fire, my mind reeling. Lies. All of it. It has to be. Netharis cannot be powerful enough to create and control a goddess. The book confirmed Celesta as my mother. She had given birth to Valen and me as a mortal, a winged fae. Not because she fell in love with the god of death. No, nothing quite so romantic. She signed a contract in which she was required to give Netharis an heir, making Valen and I half-demon. Not the agreed-upon creations between 2 gods I'd assumed we were. For nearly 12 centuries, I've existed believing myself to be the abandoned construct between the moon goddess and the god of death. Half-demon, half-winged fae. The fact alone rattled my entire world, but as I read on, it got worse. Celesta and her mate were some of the last of their kind living in Eris. At some point, her mate fell ill. Details in the book were vague surrounding this, but did mention the rapid spread of a sickness partly responsible for the decline in winged fae populations. In her desperation to save her mate, Celesta appealed to multiple gods. Gaia, Nektos, Indui, Atia, Helios? None answered. But Netharis swooped in, primed to feed on her misery and despair. My father is the only god known to answer the prayers of mortals, and only when they're hopeless enough to sign a contract with little regard to the terms of the agreement. Celesta did exactly that. She became one of the damned souls I'm sent to collect. Netharis promised to grant her the power to save her mate, but she failed to read the fine print of what Netharis would gain in return. Unsurprisingly, Celesta grew angry, refusing to be a host, a vessel to grow and birth demons. In that time, her mate grew sicker. The contract outlined she would not ascend until she had delivered on her half of the agreement first. She watched her mate grow closer to death with each passing day, until finally she relented. The day Celesta delivered, the day Valen and I were born, her mate died. Whether their death was due to the sickness or Netharis' influence, the book doesn't clarify. But honestly, knowing Netharis, the mate's death is because of him. Netharis is a spiteful god. She gave him his heir, and he took her mate anyway. I couldn't bring myself to read the last 2 chapters. Not after all of that. Resisting the urge to hurl the book into the fire, I toss it face down onto the table beside me and sigh. Fighting sharp waves of nausea, my jaw tightens. If Valen and I had been born in the living realm, we should have been given the opportunity to live. I'd occasionally wondered why Celesta never made herself known in the Hells when so many other gods had. And now it makes sense. I wouldn't want to see or acknowledge children I'd been forced to have either. Netharis' preference for Valen makes sense in the context of the Hells, a patriarchal hierarchy. But I fail to understand why he would pull me into the Hells when he has no use for a daughter. I could have had a life. Gods know what kind of mortal I'd be. I sure as the Hells wouldn't be anything like the creature I am now. Growing up in the Hells is a strange thing. I can't honestly call it growing, as nothing grows in this realm. Valen and I simply came into existence one day and began to learn our roles within the demonic hierarchy. Ofttimes it was a trial by hellfire, quite literally at times. Valen learned everything he needed to rule the Hells. I learned how to serve it. Nothing more than a tool to my father, he uses me to secure contracts, tempt layer lords, and reap souls of the damned. An untouchable trophy. That's how I serve my house. All of this information about my mother begs the question, why her? Why would Netharis, the god of death, choose a mortal winged fae to mother his heir? It doesn't make sense. Not when his subsequent children were mothered by goddesses. There has to be something I'm missing, some answer I'm overlooking. Letting my head fall back against the chair, I stare at the high ceiling and sigh. My head is filled with questions I'll never ask Netharis, and thus never find the answers to. "Oh good, you're still here." Jerking upright at the sound of Yalara's voice, my head whirls over my shoulder. Ollora sprints toward me, her dark eyes lighting up as they meet mine. Her pin-straight black hair swirls about her face and chin, and I can't help but feel she's cut it yet again. She crosses the library in a matter of seconds, halting abruptly beside me and kneeling. The broad grin on her face is ridiculous. "What are you doing, Ollora?" I ask, weary. She curls her hands over the armrest of my chair. "Please tell me you're finished with your reapings," she breathes, not because she's exerted herself, but because she wants to be dramatic. Staring at her, my concern deepens along with the crease between my brows. An excited demon, even if it's little Ollora, is always good reason to give pause. I finished earlier, yes, I answer with a slight nod. She springs to her feet and I recoil, leaning away from her. Perfect! She nearly shrieks the word, clapping her hands. I'm almost finished with my list, and the next— You haven't finished? I hiss at her, peering over the back of the chair toward the library entrance, half expecting the god of death to appear. Sliding my eyes back to her, I give her a withering glare. If Netharis finds you here— Vess, listen! She shakes her head. My next reaping is in Ollora. Ollora, the capital city of Eris. I blink. A moment passes, and the bitter sting of jealousy settles into my veins. I haven't been given reapings in any of the major cities in 2 centuries, reapings at night for half that. Ollora announcing her reaping in one of my favorite Fae cities during what would be the dead of night wraps itself around my lifeless heart and squeezes. I didn't take you for the cruel type, Ollora, I manage, not masking my hurt. Her expression shifts with concern and confusion. What? No! Vess, I want you to come with me. What? Surely I didn't hear her correctly. She grips the back of my chair and gives it a shake. Yes! Netharis has already said you could come with me. My confusion transforms into laden fear. Netharis never gives freely. What did you agree to, Ollora? I shift in my seat to see her better. The excitement from her eyes fades, but her smile remains. Nothing of substance, she answers. A lie. Gods, Ollora, why? I huff, rubbing my brow. Nothing is worth signing for, especially not 5 minutes in Ollora. Her smile falters, growing somber. Valen mentioned you were in a mood, and I know what that means. I should be touched. I should be warmed by the fact my youngest sibling has signed yet another contract with the god of death to grant me the opportunity to walk through the veil in a city I adore. Instead, I'm angry. She should know better than to ever agree to anything Netharis offers. Did you go to him with this, or did he come to you? I went to him. That makes it worse. And poor Ollora, she's barely 3 centuries old. She hasn't learned what I've learned, despite my best attempts to teach her. Some lessons can only be learned by making mistakes, regardless of how costly they are. If I don't go with her, it makes her new contract pointless. She'll be forced to pay her end of the agreement either way. God's damn Valen and his mouth, I mutter to myself. I'm going to do more than hurl a book at him the next time I see his damned face. You're a fool, I relent, with a slow toss of my head. Make it worth the agreement, Vess, she pleads, her black eyes pinning against mine. Come with me to Ollora. See the night sky. Walk through the city you love. Get out of the hells even if it's only for 5 minutes. It's tempting, especially after today. The dream, reading about Celesta, I need the distraction. For 5 minutes, I could forget about all of it. I could lose myself in the beauty, the architecture, the night sky. Gods, I could stare at the night sky for eternity. Shoving the nagging worry back into the dark depths of my being, I turn my attention to the fire. It continues to pop and crackle behind the screen, the thin metal barrier keeping one stray spark from turning all these books to ash. I'll go. I finally relent, and Ollora's smile returns, broader than before. I've never been to Ollora, she says, her excitement palpable. Dragging my eyes to hers, I give her a soft smile. I hope you hate it. Her face pinches with confusion. Because it hurts to fall in love with a place you're never going to be a part of, I finish, my voice quiet. I don't often express my innermost thoughts, but the words had fallen out of me before I was able to stop myself. My innate tingles, a gentle reminder that despite how alone I may feel in the hells, it will always be with me. Or perhaps it's a warning. Chapter 3. My first visit to Ollora took place roughly 6 centuries ago. Even then, in a matter of minutes, I became smitten. Witnessing streets filled with throngs of fae going about their lives, seeing the way the city imbues itself with the surrounding forest and the rocky lakeside in the west, all of it won me. Ollora possesses a magic I can't explain. Since then, I'd visited several more times, and each time my adoration for the fae capital grew. Ollora during the day was a thriving, bustling city. Everything I'd come to expect for a city filled with fae. Ollora at night? An otherworldly dream. The cobblestone streets, damp from an earlier rain, glisten under the soft glow of the mage-light street lanterns. The light weaves through the low-hanging fog that blankets the city, casting wispy shadows that dance with the mist. Despite the late hour, Ollora remains alive with a muted energy, laughter and music dampened by the fog. I can't pin exactly what it is I adore about Ollora. There are a multitude of cities, both fae and human, that possess the same energy, the same beauty. But they don't hold my heart like this city. Whatever it is, I'm drawn here. Like I was meant to be here. And perhaps I was. In a different universe where different decisions were made, perhaps I would have lived a life here. It's grown since my last visit. Changed, evolved. Unlike the hells. There are new shops, new blocks, new streets, new homes, new gardens. But its bones remain the same. The dark stone castle towers near the city center ahead, beyond that the temple dedicated to Celesta. Perhaps she's why I'm drawn here. Could it be something in my blood? The city of Ollora is home to one of 8 moon temples, all dedicated to my mother. I never understood why until reading Fated Celestials. Many fae view her as their matron goddess, her tragic story demonstrating the power of the mate bond. I scoff a laugh with the thought. The mate bond is a foolish notion. Fae believe they're destined to spend their lives with a partner chosen for them by the goddess of fate. Many spend their lives searching and never find them. Others ignore the expectation and create families with non-mate partners, only to have them destroyed when their mate surfaces. It's yet another means for the gods to interfere with the lives of mortals for their own entertainment. One of the few redeeming qualities of being demon, a mate bond is not something I'll ever have to navigate. The largest of the moon temples lies here in this city, likely because Celesta was born somewhere in Eris. Fated Celestials never stated exactly where. 8 temples, 8 moon phases. I'm going to assume each temple represents a phase. I've never seen the temple or the castle up close, always at a distance. But following Ollora, headed north toward the city center, a small sliver of hope flares in my chest. Perhaps that changes tonight. Moving silently along the middle of the street, I raise the hood of my black robes, shrouding my face and hair in shadow. Tattered and frayed, they're the same robes I've worn for centuries now. I don't wear the same finery as Ollora or even Valen, because that means negotiating with Netharis for them, and that's not something I'm willing to do. Besides, these robes are familiar, comfortable, and they serve their purpose. I've no need for anything else. As we draw closer to the city center, a few mortals wander along the street. A couple here, a group there, all meandering at a leisurely pace through the night. They chatter and laugh. Some walk hand in hand, and for a moment, I wonder about the kind of lives they lead. Lifting my gaze overhead, the peaked spires of Castle Eris reach toward the stars, dark against the deep of the universe overhead. A few of the windows glow silver in the night, the light from mage lights spilling through. Stumbling in Ollara's wake in an awestruck mess as we move forward, I'm forced to lower my attention lest I fall face first in the middle of the street. Despite my rapidly growing sense of wonder, the lack of hunting instinct is more than strange. Not having the demanding pull in my chest makes this excursion feel wrong. It feels as if I'm breaking rules I shouldn't be, and when I return to the Hells, I'll be met with Netharis' rage. Doing my best to sweep the thoughts and feelings aside, my innate vibrates and ripples with each step. It feeds on the swirling emotions within me, the excitement, awe, fear. And if I'm not careful, my shadows could overwhelm me and unleash an uncontrollable storm. Losing control of my magic has landed me in difficult situations more than once, and I would rather tonight not be one of them. "What name were you given?" I ask, and my half-sister's eyes swing in my direction. Deep pools of black that could swallow the night. "Devrin O'Rourke," she answers. A human name? In a fae-populated city? She nods as if I wore my questions on my face. "Despite humans migrating west following the Dividing War, Eris remains open to humans," Ollora explains, and my eyes narrow with disbelief. She begins to laugh. "You should really consider reading about mortal histories, Vess." "To what end?" I retort as we follow a left bend in the street. "Knowing mortal histories isn't going to help me." She chuckles. "No, it won't. But don't you want to know about the souls you're reaping?" "Not particularly." "Is that why you read about mortal histories, Ollora? To know about the souls you're reaping?" I answer her question with ones of my own, prompting her to laugh. "The souls we reap are those foolish enough to sign a contract with Netharis. They don't deserve my attention." "Fair enough," she deigns with a small shrug. "But knowing their histories can give you more context into why they may have agreed to Netharis' offer. Think about it. A human in a fae-dominated city would be surrounded by creatures stronger, faster, near immortal. How would a human protect themselves when the standards are ill-matched?" "I see Netharis still hasn't broken you of your empathy." I scoff a laugh and her brows raise. "Or perhaps you like burdening yourself with such thoughts." Her light laughter rings out through the night. "Not empathy, Vess. Curiosity. Devrin's decisions are his to make and hold no effect upon me. But I am intrigued by what factors may have influenced him to make them." Her head snaps forward, her pace quickening. "This way. We're close," she says, with a fleeting glance over her shoulder. Ollora breaks into a sprint, and I give her a judging glare before doing the same. Too fast. My time here is going by too fast. Voices ahead reach me as I watch Ollora dip right through an open gate and out of sight. Rushing to catch up to her, I slow as I pass through seconds later. I'd expected an alley or another street, not an open courtyard. My head swings right. Not just any courtyard, it seems, but a courtyard between Castle Eris and the Moon Temple. Several yards ahead, Ollora approaches a massive crowd, split down the center, standing at the base of the Moon Temple stairs. On her left stand at least 50 people dressed in silver robes, their hoods raised. On her right, 50 more in black. The voices. It had been them. The sound of their prayers spoken in unison. Prayer? In the dead of night? My innate screams at the base of my skull as I trail behind Ollora. She makes her way up the stairs toward the 4 black-robed figures standing behind a waist-high platform. Lying upon it, a silver-robed mortal. I'm not familiar with Celesta's demands upon her devoted, nor do I care to learn, but something about this sits heavily in my stomach. The only things I know about Celesta are things I've overheard Netharis mention in passing to the Layer Lords. According to the god of death, Celesta is a capricious female, the perfect creature to embody the moon and its ever-changing phases. She's known as the goddess of change to some mortals, the goddess of deceit to others. Taking what I know of her with a hefty dose of skepticism, I can't help but wonder what kind of mortals would devote their lives to such a goddess. 100 pairs of hands shoot above their heads, startling me. Her light illuminate our heart, those in silver speak. Her shadow reveal our path, those in black counter. Repeating the same beck and call, it becomes a rhythmic chant. It fills the courtyard, the night, and resonates within my chest. It doesn't feel right to witness this. I feel like an intruder, yet I can't tear my eyes away. A full moon hangs overhead, partially hidden behind swiftly traveling clouds. The temple rises to meet it. Though its highest peaks aren't as tall as Castle Eris, it remains impressive all the same. Its tallest spire sits centered, featuring a large, round, darkened glass window. Smaller spires rise on either side, with windows resembling a waning and waxing moon of the same dark glass. Smooth white pillars support an intricately carved roof, the overhang adorned with silver inlaid symbols depicting the same 3 moon phases. Moonflower vines crawl around the pillars, their petals shining a bright white in the light cast by the mage lights floating overhead. Towering dark wood doors provide entry, closed for the time being. My eyes fall to the figures standing before them at the top of the stairs. 2 pairs of black-robed and hooded mortals stand on either side of one in silver. The one in silver hadn't been there a moment ago. Where did they come from? Ollora stands at the base of the stairs, motionless. Watching, I realize. Waiting. Listening to the hunting instinct. A moment passes, and finally Ollora begins to climb the stairs, and I force my feet to follow. I approach the edge of the parted crowd. One of the 6 figures at the top is her mark. The silver-robed figure walks forward, approaching the altar, and raises their arms heavenward. A silver-bladed dagger glints in the light. I'm going to assume the one on the altar is Ollora's mark, which means this isn't a prayer service. It's a God's damned sacrificial ritual. Celesta's devoted are sacrificing a human. Why? Does Celesta realize this gift is damned? Are these mortals about to offend a goddess with their offering? I don't want to be here if so. The man on the altar moves, his head lolling to the side. Drugged. He's been drugged. Does he realize what's about to happen? I'd expect this kind of behavior from demons, but Fae. Repulsed, I continue toward the center of the crowd, walking down the makeshift aisle the devotees have created. Movement in the upper left corner of my vision pulls my attention left. Yet another figure stands leaning against one of the pillars, hood drawn, face hidden by shadow. Staring as I continue slowly toward the stairs, the figure is donning black, but it's not the black robes others are wearing. Judging by the height and build of the figure, it's a Fae male. A guard, perhaps? No, there's a distinct lack of weapons on him. Nothing at his waist, nothing across his chest or back. Silver embroidery along the hem of his hood becomes apparent. He folds his arms over his chest, and matching silver on the cuff of his shirt makes itself known. Whomever this male is, he possesses wealth. Regardless of who or what he is, his demeanor makes it clear he has no interest in participating in the ritual. He watches everything silently from afar. A small smile curls my lips. I wonder if the observer knows he's being observed. He shifts, glancing over the crowd as I turn away, returning my sights to Ollora. She stands at the foot of the altar, her bat-like wings pulled tight against her. With a smirk, I nod to myself. I know exactly what she's feeling. The hunting instinct is screaming at her, letting her know she's found her target and minutes remain. As I near the base of the stairs, a tiny tug resonates in my chest, and I freeze. What? The hunting instinct? How? I don't have a list. I lack a name. It pulls again, coaxing me to the left, and my head swings, hands flying to the center of my chest as I meet the shadowed stare of the male beside the pillar. The sensation continues to unfurl, coaxing me up the stairs in his direction. Planting my feet firmly, I refuse to move. This should not be happening. Whatever this is, it isn't as harsh as the hunting instinct. It doesn't feel like a tightening yoke demanding to be followed. Instead, it feels like a gentle reminder, a familiar whisper. How is it possible for something to feel familiar when I've no idea what it is? Lowering his arms, he pulls himself from the pillar, stepping in my direction. At the same time, the chanting stops, silence sweeping in, and I whirl. The crowd stands unnaturally still, hidden faces forward, arms returned to their sides. A powerful feminine voice cuts through the air, and I whirl again. It's the figure in silver robes at the top of the stairs. The language she speaks, it's not one I know, neither common tongue nor Malbolge, and... Recoiling, I stumble back a few steps as my skin begins to sting and burn, and I hear Ollora cry out. Yggdrasil. The language of the heavens. Hissing to offset her sound, I shrink under the power of her words. The song-like language of the Neraphim, of the goddess of life, carries an inherent magic designed to accost demons. Forcing my eyes open, Ollora climbs onto the altar, perching herself at her target's feet, ready to claim his soul the instant his life ends. It shouldn't be much longer. Gods, don't let it be much longer. I've no desire to test how much Yggdrasil I can withstand before I burst into hellfire. Finally, the female stops, and the relief is immediate. May we bask in your presence, Celesta, she says, her voice so low I would have missed it had I not been focused on her. My innate bucks and churns, begging for release, for freedom, and the pull in my chest yanks my head to the left. The male is walking down the stairs in my direction. Ollora! My shout rings across the courtyard, and her head snaps toward me. Something isn't right! Too late. In a swift motion, the silver-robed figure plunges the dagger into the chest of the man on the altar. White-hot pain sears through me, and my shadows lash out in all directions, thrashing wildly. Barbed tendrils wrap themselves around me, creating a protective shield, stealing the view of my surroundings. Ollora! I scream, the pain forcing me to my knees as I clutch at my chest. Fire! My entire body is on fire, and I'm going to burn like dried tinder. Eyes squeezed shut, my innate continues to roll, desperately fighting against this unknown magic threatening me. The protective cocoon grows higher, thicker, ready to claim the life of anyone who dares touch it. Biting back another scream and teetering on the edge of consciousness, the pain subsides, replaced by a cooling wash. It calms my innate, dissipating my shadows, and I fall onto my side, trembling. It's done. But now, a new wave of fear grips me, and I don't have the time to lie here. I have to return to the hells. Pushing myself to a stand, I reach for the endless reserves of my innate magic, requesting a portal to the hells be opened. Nothing happens. What? I try again, staring at the ground beneath me. Nothing. Again. Have I been blocked from the house? My eyes shoot wide. Lifting my head and sweeping my hood back, I turn to face the male in black. He stands less than 15 feet away, watching me, as if he can see me. Turning on my toes to follow his gaze, I find 100 pairs of eyes staring back at me. The crowd has lowered their hoods, exposed their faces, and I step backward, my heel bumping against the bottom stair. My wings shoot wide to retain balance, and they gasp. Many scurry backward, pushing against others to put space between us. "What is this?" I whisper, unable to keep my jaw from hanging. One of those in black robes steps forward, and I raise my hand in a halting gesture, only to stare at the hand that clearly does not belong to me. Gone are the black talons capable of cutting to the bone. They've been replaced by slender, blunt-ended fingers. Fingers like those of mortals. Incoherent noises of fear and panic bubble from my throat as I flex and stretch the pale hand. A demon cannot pass through the veil. I cannot pass through the veil. Raising my eyes heavenward, the night sky comes into view, and for a few seconds, everything but the universe falls away. Seeing the sky without the filter of the veil is unlike anything I could have ever imagined in 10,000 years. Somehow, I've been pulled through the veil. I no longer stand on the side of death. I am standing among the living. This shouldn't be possible. The Fae in black. Turning, I see he hasn't moved. He remains motionless, face hidden under a hood. "What have you done?" I demand, not caring about the unbridled terror in my voice. "Vestaris," a soft musical voice trills. The cold, ethereal stare of cerulean blue eyes greets me as I swing right. They're set in a hauntingly beautiful face that resembles my own. But it's not a mirror I stare at. Celesta. I breathe the goddess's name. Netharis is going to end me for this. The goddess of the moon appears to float down the stairs, her movements swift, graceful, effortless. Everything I would expect from the bride of Netharis. Unable to tear my eyes from her, I'm enraptured by her beauty. Massive silver-feathered wings adorn her back, half extended as she moves. They're the largest set I've ever seen on a living creature. Her wings dwarf mine. Both her eye color and feather color were passed to Valen, but staring at her face is like staring into a mirror. There are too many similarities for her to be anyone other than my mother. Her tall, slender frame is draped with navy robes that billow in her wake along with her knee-length silver hair. Upon her brow rests a circlet dripping with shimmering moonstones. It creates a veil that frames her face, reminding me of moonlight. Coming to a stop upon the last step, she reaches out, taking my hands into hers with a gentle smile on her face. Her touch is cool, like I've plunged my palms into ice water. She scans my face, whether to scrutinize or admire, I can't tell. "You have their eyes." She whispers the question using common tongue, the intensity of her stare forcing me to lower my gaze. "How?" She lifts my face with a finger under my chin. "I don't know what you're talking about." I yank my chin away and step back. "Nor do I care. Netharis Using the language of the hells on sacred ground is rude, Vestaris, she chides, one corner of her lips tilting in a smile. I would have taught you better. This goddess cannot be serious. Her sharp, twinkling laughter cuts through me and sets my skin crawling. You resemble me, but embody him, she muses, lifting a dark brow. Tell me, where is Valen? In the hells, where I should also be. Why do you want the heir of the hells? Her eyes widen. Is he the heir? Perhaps it is you after all. She was right. What in the 9 hells does she mean? Who was right? Artemis, she calls over her shoulder. The silver-robed figure near the altar sweeps down the stairs with due haste. Stopping beside the moon goddess, she lowers her hood, and I clench my jaw to keep it from dropping to the ground. A human woman, not a fae. This is Vestaris Moonshadow. Celesta gestures toward me with an upturned palm. My daughter. Moonshadow? Is she giving me her winged fae family name? Or perhaps I've always had it, and Netharis has never told me. Welcome her into the fold. Teach her what she needs to thrive in this realm. Keep her safe. She is the catalyst. What? I step back. Of course, my goddess. She pitches in a quick bow. Come, Vestaris. Within the temple you will be cared for. What? I'm sure I sound like a mimic bird at this point. Artemis extends a weathered hand, descending the last step. Celesta remains upon it and makes no motion to move. I don't understand. I shake my head. Celesta's brows raise with surprise. I'm offering you sanctuary, Vestaris. Take it. I can't. Nothing about any of this makes any semblance of sense. Demons cannot walk within the living realm. Celesta's expression softens. Half demon, she reminds me gently. Netharis has kept you from your fate for long enough. Fate? Nektos has nothing to do with me. She stares at me, her eyes pleading as she edges toward the ledge of the stair. But she doesn't step down. Why? What is keeping her there? You, my beautiful daughter, you will change the realms, she says softly, and I will help you along the way. Blinded by hellfire, I turn my face away from the scalding heat. Hellfire has never burned me before. In the same heartbeat, a massive taloned hand wraps around the back of my neck and jerks me toward the flames. As the god of death emerges from the portal, stepping into the living realm, he shoves me behind him through the gateway to the hells. Tripping over my own feet, I stumble and fall, landing hard onto my knees on the polished obsidian floor. Head whirling over my shoulder, what little I can see of the living realm reveals the crowd lurching into chaos, screams rising. With a dark laugh, Netharis snaps his fingers and the portal cinches shut. Peering at my hands pressed against the floor, my talons have returned. Returned to the hells and left in Netharis's dark study. A gaping pit opens in the bottom of my stomach as I wait for my father's return. It shouldn't feel wrong to have come back, but it does. Chapter 4. I wasn't left alone with my spiraling thoughts and consuming fear for long. In a swirl of hellfire, Netharis appears, seated in his plush, high-backed chair behind his desk. At the same time, hundreds of black candles burst alive with flame, casting the study in dancing light. Shelves filled with black leather-bound books, stacks of various-sized obsidian boxes in every corner, mounds of paper, scrolls, and open chests filled with trinkets are revealed. A macabre collection of preserved creatures under domes of glass line the topmost shelves. They stare down with unseeing eyes. Pixies, gnomes, pseudo-dragons, fey-dragons. All once immortal beings from the living realm. Creatures Netharis hunted or contracted mortals to hunt to extinction, because no living entity should escape death. The study is reminiscent of the library and in near the same state of disarray. But this room doesn't hold the same respite as the library. No. Invitations to this room are best avoided. Keeping my eyes lowered, I force myself to stand. Will I simply be lectured? Or will it escalate to being berated and beaten? I can feel his stare as I keep my gaze lowered and my mouth shut. He sighs.
Whatever she told you, I can guarantee it's not the whole of the matter,
he says, his voice low. Her words about changing the realms ring in my mind. She must have me mistaken for someone else. I'm not capable of any such feat, nor would I want to be. She pulled me into the living realm, I say, my voice trembling.
No, she did not,
he counters, his tone sharp. Irritation flares to life in my veins. I know what I saw, what I felt. I match his tone. Things you insist are impossible.
Enough, Vestaris,
he bellows, slamming his hands down on his desk as he bolts upright.
Celesta is not the benevolent creature she presents herself as.
I flinch as my eyes race to his, my jaw clenching. He's returned to his human glamour. Gone is the towering creature mortals and demons alike fear, replaced with the visage of a man. Styled dark hair, finely chiseled features, ivory skin. His wings remain on display, the only indication he's not human. Constructed of sinew, bone, and membrane-thin flesh, they loom behind him, folded against his back. He dons a black button-down shirt, left mostly open, the collar and cuffs featuring red Mabulje rune embroidering. Our house brand. Lord of Death, it reads. I wear the same runes. They're inked in black upon the skin behind my left ear. Vessel of Death, it states. It's a brand I keep hidden with my hair. Of the tens of thousands of houses in the Hells, Netharis's is not the one I would have chosen for myself, were I given a choice.
You're lucky Ollora came to me when she did,
he says, bracing himself over his desk. He glances over the multitude of papers scattered across it between his hands. Half-drafted contracts, lists of names, letters from various powerful demons. Shifting a few papers aside, he releases a long sigh. Of course, Ollora would have gone to him right away. I don't blame her. She needed to protect herself. Lowering himself into his seat, he taps a long-taloned finger against his desk. The sound rings in my ears, a resounding tap, 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 tap. It eats away at the silence between us. I hate it. My innate begins to scream, wanting to lash out and bind his hand, break his finger. Anything to get him to stop. Clenching my jaw harder, I fight against the demonic urge. Something like that will land me another decade in an obsidian box, and I'd rather remain outside of them. I'm fractured enough. Gods, the tapping is unbearable. Then tell me the whole of the matter, I blurt, and attempt to focus on anything other than the noise drilling into my mind. His finger stops mid-strike as his eyes narrow. The silence that falls between us is heavy, laden with the threat of rage. It's as if he's trying to figure out what to say, and it breeds unease in my chest. Netharis has played political chess with the pantheon of gods for longer than I've existed, and I've never seen him pause like this.
For centuries, I've kept you safe, hidden from Nektos,
he explains, a glass of red wine appearing before him in a flash of hellfire.
The fate she's woven for you is quite cruel. It's not something I'd want for you.
Not something he would want. How easy it is for him to disregard what I want. A fate woven by Nektos. None of this feels real. Today has been revelation after revelation, each one more wild than the last. First, the nature of Netharis' contract with Celesta, them being pulled through the veil, and now I learn I'm fated. I would be daft to take Netharis at his word. The truth always lies in the things he doesn't say. Snagging the glass from the desk, he raises it in a toast-like gesture before drinking deeply. An indulgence born of gluttony. Creatures of the hells don't experience thirst or hunger, not in the mortal sense. Setting the emptied glass down, it vanishes in the same manner as it had appeared.
Celesta's selfish stunt leaves us in a situation where Nektos now knows it is I who has you,
he mutters, the irritation clear in his voice.
She's trying to use you to free herself from her contract.
How can I free a goddess from a contract with a god of death? Mind reeling, all I can do is stare at my father. He sighs.
Now I have a decision to make.
Oh no. Those words are never a good sign. Decision? I ask, doing my best to quell my rising fear and panic.
She will try to reach you again. I cannot let it happen.
He shifts in his seat, crossing a leg over the other. The chair groans under his weight.
You can no longer reap, Vestaris.
What? My voice raises to a shout. Netharis' eyes lock with mine, his jaw tightening as my innate thrashes within me. It swirls around my anger, my fear, ballooning in my chest, causing my entire body to tense. My shadows threaten to swallow the study, consume me, Netharis, and anyone else in their path. Netharis studies me as if I were nothing more than the carcass of an imp he's pulled from his boot. He rakes his eyes over me, leaning back in his seat, careful not to pin his wings.
Do not be dramatic, Vestaris,
he says, giving me a lazy scowl.
You'll be given a new role, one that doesn't require you to leave the hells.
Not leave the hells? I repeat the words in a dry scoff. Not walk in the veil? Not see the living realm? Be confined to the library and my bedroom for eternity, contend with Valen, Casil, and the court of demons. Please, no. Please, gods, no. Do not do this. My voice trembles with pained restraint. Restraint to keep from screaming, restraint to keep my innate under control. Please do not lock me here. The veil is all I have.
You will not be without purpose, daughter,
he says, and for a split second there's a flash of empathy in his eyes. I blink and it's gone, his blood-red stare cold and distant.
You will serve your house in other ways.
It's not about serving my goddamned house. It's about being trapped in the hells for eternity. My innate feeds with a voracious need upon my emotions. It should not be this difficult to keep my innate in line, and I have to keep it under control. Unless the thought emerges from the darkest parts of my mind. I push Netharis enough to end me. You cannot keep me prisoner. My voice sounds strangely calm, despite the violent storm within me.
prisoner?
His face grows mottled as his eyes darken.
You belong to the Hells, Vestaris.
He shouts the words he's commanded as scripture, and I flinch. Netharis will never view me as a daughter. I'll never be Valen. Taking a deep breath, my lungs are filled with the scent of the Hells, sulfur and smoke, and I nearly choke on it. Billows of shadows ebb underfoot as my control starts to crack and fissure.
I've given you countless opportunities to prove your worth.
Netharis continues to shout, the room rattling with his voice.
And at every turn, you fail.
My innate screams, and I let go. Darkness explodes from my being in a violent expulsion of shadowed tendrils. Lashing out in every direction, dark clouds race to smother the candles. In seconds, we're entrenched in darkness, glass shattering. Books and obsidian boxes crash and thunder to the floor. Netharis' desk creaks and splinters. A harrowing, cold fire rips through my very essence. The rage, the fear, the hopelessness. It's all swept up in a swirling vortex of shadow and darkness, leaving me at its epicenter. A sluice has been thrown open, and I am no longer enough to satisfy the hunger of my innate, nor am I strong enough to close it. If Netharis doesn't end me, my innate will. My darkness will feed. Bright white stars flash behind my eyes, a large taloned hand closing around my throat. Faster than lightning, sharp pain blooms in the back of my head, jarring my skull, rattling my teeth. Grimacing through the pain, Netharis pierces my soul with his blood-red stare as he pins me against the wall, his face inches from mine. Laughter. One of us is laughing, and judging by Netharis' snarling face, it's not him. It's a wild, manic sound as darkness continues to spread and destroy everything it touches. It tears at my hair, my robes, my feathers, and cuts at Netharis, leaving him bloodied.
Enough of this!
He roars, his grip tightening. Flashes of hellfire strike, batting away barbed tendrils aimed for his throat and face. The tower begins to quake, the floor rumbling, but Netharis doesn't move. For once, I am beyond his control. I will not shirk. I will not bend. Leaning hard into my innate, a second wave ruptures, sending a shattering pulse of darkness across the room. Netharis' grip vanishes, and I collapse to the floor. The obsidian beneath me cracks and shifts, a gaping fissure tearing through the center of the room. Blinded by my shadows, I scramble left, my hands slapping against the floor in haste. As screams rise, the intoxicating sensation of my shadows feeding on demons lurking in the layers below floods my veins. This is the demonic urge I've fought against for centuries. The desire to kill them all. The unbearable need to feed my innate. And good gods, giving in is euphoric. A sickening crack echoes in my ears, stemming from the base of my skull, and I fall face first into nothingness. Chapter 5. The silence I awaken to is deafening. To my infernal dismay, I still exist. Resounding defeat runs cold through my veins. It contrasts the heat of the tears sliding down my face. Of course Netharis wouldn't end me. Not after displaying that kind of power. I'll never escape him. I'd given everything I had, gave in to my innate. I let it control me in hopes it would be enough. It wasn't. Staring at the ceiling, numbness overtakes me. It creeps through every limb before settling in my chest. Feeling drained, I turn over. I know I need to fight, but I'm so incredibly tired. close my eyes, hoping to dream of the night sky the living take for granted.